Thank you. That was such a sweet intro. Riley always giving the nicest intro.
Yeah, well, it tis the season. We're so close to Rosh Hashanah. It's all about honey and being sweet.
I love it. And I'm so excited to be here. Thanks, guys. I mean, it's a Monday at what time? 6. I mean, I'm- I don't know where I was in college on a Monday at 6 p.m. So you guys already have a, 1 foot forward on that. Um, I love Berkeley. My sister actually recently graduated the same major, I think. Who is society and environment? Okay, Dara. Um, she started actually a nonprofit called Herbicide Free Campus, which is pretty big on Berkeley, I think, at this point, and a bunch of schools. So I've spoken multiple times at Berkeley, and I absolutely love the school. And I think before I even get started I have some content to share with you guys tonight. But before I get started, I think I want to give you a little background on myself on why I'm even here talking to you, what got me here in the first place. And I think the biggest thing was I fought for B's in college. I fought for C's in high school. I fought for B's in college. And for a while, it was like just trying to make it through my classes. I played a sport in college it was tough. And when I graduated from college, I didn't have a job lined up because I was trying to get through classes. And I'm from Hawaii, which I was going to say my thing I'm looking forward to is not quarantining for 2 weeks because they have a pretty strict quarantine in Hawaii. So I'm excited to go home and not have to sit at home for 2 weeks. So anyways, I went home and applied for a million jobs and didn't get one response. And I don't know if you guys with those like emoji things, like have you ever experienced just like applying for jobs over and over again, not hearing back?
This is what
Okay.
I'm experiencing right now, yes.
And at first you're excited, you're like, okay, I'm gonna graduate or I'm gonna get that internship. And then it gets pretty painful quickly because you're applying, and you're just not hearing back. And for me, I thought I was gonna be on top of the world when I graduated. I was like gonna go to New York City and couldn't get a job. And I quickly, after months, I mean, not quickly, after months of thinking, okay, I went from like, I'm going to get this amazing job to I need something and I just need to get a job to maybe I'm just going to live in my parents' place forever and have an unpaid internship. And so that changed for me. And this is actually what sparked the book about 6 or 7 years ago, because I realized that my resume just was never seen. And I changed up all my techniques and I got really creative. And all of a sudden, I started hearing back from all those companies I was responding to, like applying for, because I was connecting, I was doing it in a different way. And I'll talk to you guys about some of those techniques tonight. But everything changed for me once I switched up my techniques. And so I wrote the book and I was like, okay, I want to put something out there that shows people how to actually get your foot in the door, how to get an interview, what does it take to get someone to notice you and actually get a response? And so that was the book. I interviewed people all over the world and got some really cool stories of how people got their foot in the door. And over the last 6 or so years, so my career has always been in advertising. And alongside of that, because I had written this book, the book was a part of multiple curriculums in college, and I started just helping people to get jobs. And I was like, okay, people would reach out, I'd speak at colleges, I'd get emails or LinkedIn's. And that kind of led me to why I'm talking with you guys today, because I started doing some career coaching and did it for a few years. And it got to a point where I just couldn't have that, like I could only have a certain amount of clients at a time because it just got so time consuming. So I decided, okay, I'm going to make a resource so people can have this course, which I published in July, and you can take every single step. And that would be a lot of the same techniques that I would coach you on. So today I'm going to get into the deck and we're going to talk about networking, which I think is very timely for the theme. Okay, perfect. So this is just a little bit about my background. I've worked at companies of all sizes. So started at Undertone, I wrote the book, I worked at Twitter for a bit. I then jumped to a startup, which was acquired by Twitter, and now I'm at Apple. And along that, I've started a company called Going Places. Now, with the company I started, we published a course called Get Hired, and in that course we have 12 chapters. It goes all the way from online presence to salary negotiation and everything in between. Today we're going to focus on networking tools and messaging. All right. So before we get into the weeds and talk about some skills, I want to just bring some positivity here, because I feel like, you know, I can't imagine what it's like to be in college right now, to be trying to figure out whether it's an internship or a job. It is very tough, but we're going to turn this into a bit more positive. So first of all, companies are hiring, but it is very, very competitive. And you're going to have to be more creative and out of the box than ever before. And it's going to take hustle, it's going to take work. But honestly, that is the only way to get noticed. And let's talk about 4 rules here. Take away everything that you've known about applying for jobs and you know, all these different things, and get to these 4 rules. Applying is nothing. I have never actually applied to a job that I've gotten. All those companies you saw, I never actually applied online. Referrals are everything. This is key. Get an internal referral at a company you want to work for, and here's the catch: you don't even need to know a single person. You can create the path to your dream job by networking the right way. But get ready to get rejected. And I love actually talking about rejection, and it makes me, it reminds myself all the time to focus on this, because there are going to be so many closed doors that come your way. But you have to just focus on that one open door, because if you focus on all the closed doors, you're going to get distracted, you're going to be brought down, and you're going to give up. And if you focus on that one open door, you're going to move through. And when rejection comes your way, it's redirection. Remember that. It's easy. I mean, for me, I've been in my career now for 10 years. And if I would have, I showed you my career path, and you're probably thinking, oh, cool, she's had some really cool jobs. If I've showed you the amount of companies that I've gotten rejected from, or just haven't gotten what I wanted, you wouldn't even cover this page. You wouldn't even seen the companies that I've worked at. But I only now can remind myself, oh, thank God I didn't get that job, or thank God I didn't get that job. But if you can focus in the moment and say, okay, if the one thing that's going to stop me is rejection, and I can just get past that, you're going to be so much more successful. And this is my favorite quote when it comes to rejection. You can ask 100 people out on a date, and if you get 99 no's, you have a date. So remember that. We're not focusing on the no's. And today we're going to talk about networking, specifically during COVID, because there's certain nuances that we'll talk about and advantages that you're going to have being in a pandemic, a shelter in, that we can work with. And by the end of this session, you will know how to reach out to professionals with knowledge, confidence, and tact. And the goal when you're reaching out is to get them on a call. So remember that as we're going through this. Now, and let me start by saying, this is just a small networking session. You know, the broader course has so many different chapters. So you want to first form the companies that you're interested in, right? So it's very proactive rather than just reacting and applying. So you want to come up with that list of companies. So once you have that, that's before we get here. Now it's, I want to get on the phone with people at those companies. So in order to do that, we first need to find, where are your people? And I heard when you guys introduced yourselves, everyone has a bit different major background. Just because I'm talking about one thing today, so I'm going to, hone in a little bit more on LinkedIn, doesn't mean that's what your focus is going to be. So while LinkedIn may be important in the business world and, a lot of different industries, it's not everything. And it's important to understand where your people are. Before a pandemic, I would say, okay, are they at a certain bar? They go to a certain coffee shop? Are they on Twitter? If you're a political major, you might find that your people are more active on Twitter. It's important to understand, where are they focused on? Where are they going to respond? Because that's your best chance of getting a response. So once you figure out where your people are, which channel you're going to focus on, how do I get someone to respond to me? So first you have to remember this not so secret. Almost every single company out there has an internal referral incentive bonus. What does that mean? So employees are incentivized to talk with you, but you have to go about it the right way. So what is an incentive bonus? That means that if I got someone hired at my current company, I could get anywhere from $500 to $10,000. So I'm incentivized to want to refer a really good candidate to my company. And this is across the board for every company I've ever worked at. Sometimes startups have even larger, incentive bonuses because it's so hard to hire. So remember that as you're thinking about these techniques, because there's an incentive for them to want to answer your message and refer you. Now here's 8 rules for reaching out. 1, leverage your alumni, past colleagues, common ground, the Jewish community, Career Up Now. It's so important where you can to find common ground. Because for example, let's say, you want to work at Google and you're like, okay, Google is one of the companies on my list. I want to get in touch with people at Google. The first people that are going to respond to you is writing a message and going, go Bears, right? Like if they went to Cal, people fight for their alumni. People fight for their community. People want to help people. And so it's important, as you don't have to know anyone at those companies, but you want to try to find as much common ground as possible. You don't have to have common ground, but leverage that before you get to just a complete cold message. Do not ask for anything but a little bit of their time. This is important because this will derail your whole strategy. I get so many messages on LinkedIn, at least 3 a day, sometimes more, of people asking me to refer them to Apple. First of all, I don't know you. No, I'm not going to refer you. I don't care how much money I would make. I'm not going to do anything for someone I don't know. But when someone messages me and they say, hey, Melanie, wow, I saw that you wrote a book and you just launched Going Places. How's that going? I'd love to grab like 10 minutes of your time to talk about you. I'm like, okay, fine, let's do it. I'll talk about me. People like that, but be genuine. So you don't need to just go and like flatter someone. Yes, you want to add some flattery. You want to make it about them, but you want to be genuine. There's definitely questions and curiosity that you have about that person that you want to make them show it's genuine. You're not looking for anything but a good conversation and to learn from them. So here's an example. I went to the University of Pittsburgh. In the Get Hired course, we have different types of message templates that we have. So based on like commonality. So this is a commonality message because we both went to Pitt. So it's like, hi, Hyla, I saw you graduated from Pitt. I'm currently in my senior year there, and I'm excited to earn my degree. I'm sure you recall the feeling. Your experience at Facebook is so impressive. If you have a few minutes, I'd love to hear more about what you do. Hail to Pitt. Hail to Pitt's a key thing because that's what brings us together, right? It's like common ground. You can't just ignore a message like that. So of course, Hyla's going to say, sure, let's chat. First thing to remember, if it's not on the calendar, it's not a call. I don't know if it's, I don't remember it being like this for me in college. I'm not sure if it's like this for you guys, but for my professional life, if it's not, including hanging out with my friends, my family, if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. So always, if someone agrees to give you time, put it on the calendar. Number 5, do your research and be prepared. So if someone's willing, who doesn't know you, who you want to talk to them to give you time, do research. Come up with really, really good questions about them. So you want to come up with questions. So it's like, okay, Hyla, she works at Facebook. I'm going to do some digging on her LinkedIn. Oh, I saw you worked at this company. You want to ask questions about the company and about their personal life, because not their personal life, their personal experiences, because that shows that you care about this time. And it could even be like, hey, I saw this blog post. You guys released a new product. How have you thought about this or that? Like just showing them that you find this time valuable. And then shut up and listen. So important. The more they talk, the better it is for you. Because I don't know about you guys, but like if you talk about yourself for like a good amount of time, you're like, oh, okay, I feel pretty good. How can I help you? Right? And that's what you want from them. And I always add this in because I forget about this and then I get reminded of it by all the people that I work with, that, sometimes when you're reaching out to people, especially if they're really high up, you'd be surprised by these techniques, because you could get CEOs and VPs and famous people to get on a call with you, but sometimes you feel a little nervous. You're like, oh my God, am I worth their time? You are. You're worth their time if you do the research and you prepare good questions. You deserve a seat at that table if you're doing that. Now, few things to get in the habit of. Read your message. The other day, my coworker showed me an email, and it was like, God, this kid was so close. He sent this good message, and then he followed up, and it was he wanted to get a referral to a company I work at, and my coworker's name is Evan, and he said Aaron, and it was just so devastating. You have to focus on what you're doing, because it gets really easy to get caught up and have these template emails and just shoot them out. But you want to show them, if someone calls me by the wrong name, if you have grammar errors, it just looks really bad. We talked about the calendar invite. It's crucial. If it's not there, you're going to get stood up. Always thank them for their time after, and that's kind of in the follow-up. So I think, you always want to send a thank you after you have a call, right? But make it a little more than just a plain thank you. Try to reference something that you've spoken about. And then you want to have a cadence, and this is something in our program that we really push, is the cadence on following up. So some of you guys are freshmen, some of you are seniors. If you have 4 years left in your college time, you might not need to get a job right now. But maybe this is something that, hey, you made a really good connection in a company that you'd probably want to work at some point. Every 6 months, you should shoot them a note, follow up, say something valuable, ask a question, show them that, build that rapport over time. So when it comes time when you need an internship or you need a job, you're not just cold messaging them. You're like, hey, Hyla, you've been talking more than once. I actually saw this role. I'm super excited. Would you be willing to refer me, or would you be willing to introduce me to someone? It's not just a cold message. It's someone that they're going to want to help. So when following these rules and using flattery, 90% of the time, they're going to ask you, so what can I do for you? It always happens. And you always don't know if it's going to happen, and it always happens. I promise you. Because once you ask them a bunch of questions, even if it's only a 15-minute call, they're going to go, okay, John, how can I help you? Or, what? And that's when it's so important to have your ask ready. So we actually have a whole chapter. It's getting a little dry, smoky out here. We have a whole chapter on understanding your ask, understanding the call. And it's important because when you're getting on a call with someone, the ask is not always to get a referral. So part of the program is you don't need to reach out to someone that's in HR or maybe on the direct team that you want to work at. You can open it up, reach out to different people at the company, because your ask could be, hey, Hyla, if I write an intro, will you forward it off to someone on the marketing team? You can move throughout the company. Just because you're talking to John in finance doesn't mean you can get to someone in marketing. So I think it's important to understand, where does this person sit? Where am I in my time of needing a job? What do I need right now? So what is my ask? And even in the ask, you never want to ask them to do anything. So I know that sounds really confusing, but if I want someone to refer me, I will do everything they need. So all they have to do is press one button. For example, I know they're going to need a paragraph about me if they're referring me, because you're supposed, they need to talk about myself. So I'll write that paragraph. I'll say in third person so they can use it. I'll give them my resume, my cover letter, everything they could possibly need. I'll package it all up so it's super easy, including an introduction. I'll write that as well. So in conclusion, it's about finding where your people are. We talked about, the different channels. Sometimes I sent someone a LinkedIn and tweeted at them. Hey, John, look at your LinkedIn, just sent you a message. It's okay to cross over, but certain people are so responsive on certain channels. Communicate using flattery and know your ask. 3 very important things to getting that goal that you want. Let me just show you that this works. So one of my clients, someone that I work with, Justin, wanted to get a job at the Golden State Warriors. So he said, all right, I'm going to email the chief revenue officer. He used flattery and recognition of his accomplishments. He said, let's talk about you. And he explained why he was reaching out. Literally less than a day later, he got a response. Brandon here gave him times, gave him his personal phone number, gave him his email, and they connected, and Justin talked to the team and got connected and everything. This is my personal story. So I wanted to work at ESPN after college. I applied 3,000 times to the company. No one ever got back to me. Finally, I got in touch with someone on the marketing team, and they say, Melanie, your resume has never been seen. You need someone to refer you. I'm not the person, click. And I was like, oh, wow, my resume has never been seen. I applied for months. This is great. I mean, I guess it's great I wasn't rejected, but also that was a big waste of my time. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to email a sportscaster. I'm going to email this guy right here, Neil Everett. If I get anyone to refer me and get an interview, it's probably someone at the top. So I sent him an email, and I sent him an email with 20 email addresses that could possibly be him. I had no idea what his email was. So I just said, okay, here's 20 combinations. I used the commonality, I used flattery, and nothing, honestly, nothing. And then a month later, I have a missed call and a voicemail on my phone, and I pick it up and it says, hello, Melanie, this is Neil Everett's voice calling you. I was like, no way. So we became friends. He's actually featured in my book. I've done interviews. I got on a call with him. So that day he called me. We talked for a little. He was like, how did you get my email? I was like, don't worry about it, Neil. He ended up getting me an interview at ESPN the next day. And that to me was actually the big thing that had me write the book, because I said, all right, it's not about, yes, it's about who you are, but it's about who you know. And it's about how you get there, because I had no connection with this guy, but somehow I was able to get him to respond, and he referred me, and the next day I had an interview. And that's something people need to understand. And you know, I go back to the following up piece, and I think another goal that might be just to have a mentor, right? And how weird is it if you're like, hey, sir, can you be my mentor? Like, that's just not how mentors evolve. And I think, you know, reaching out, asking about them, following up, and over time you develop that relationship where you can go to them asking questions. And that's really Neil to me. Like, if I needed something, he would be there, because we've built this relationship over time. Some of you may know this guy from Shark Tank or from basketball, but I had someone who wanted to get in touch with him, and he did research. So it's important when you're trying to get in touch with people that are high up, you have to understand how they respond, right? So go on Twitter, see what they respond to, go, you know, read articles. He did exactly that. And he wrote this email, said why he's messaging him, appreciation and acknowledgement and interest. The Go Bears was so big. So, you know, he went to Berkeley, and it was so big because, you know, Mark loves sports. And within, I want to say this was within 1 hour, he responded. I think they're in different time zones, but yeah, so he got a response, forwarded it off to the right person, and they've been in touch with them ever since. So pretty cool. Now let's switch gears here. And I think what's important about these stories that I tell you is that you can get in touch with the people at the top. I mean, these techniques will get you in the door, not just with the people that are just starting out or HR. These are like CEOs respond. Like, you would be surprised by how little people do these things. So let's talk about when you're thinking about your dream job. So this is something I wish that people would have told me 10 years ago. So you're in college and you're studying and you have all these aspirations, right? And you're like, I'm gonna get my dream job. Just stop. Honestly, just stop. Think about dream now. Because ultimately, I don't even know if there's such thing as a dream job. I think it's get your foot in the door, work really hard, and open up opportunities for yourself. So eventually, your steps become your dream job. You're not going to love what you're doing in your first job. Okay, maybe, but usually it's the work no one wants to do. It's, you know, you want to put yourself at a company that you can grow at, but know that it's not always going to be easy. You're going to work really hard and you're going to struggle, but that's what you do to get to that next point. I talked to Neil Everton in the interview that I had with him that I published in my book. He was working 80 hours a week in a newsroom or more, 100 hours, getting, working in the back of the newsroom, not even on camera, just head down, doing as much as he could, because that creates opportunity. And one day someone got sick and he's like, I'll do sports. And that's where your breaks come, and your network just expands. But people get stuck because you get so focused on your dream job that you limit yourself to opportunities. Get your feet wet, get your foot in the door, get experience, and you will eventually look back. For me, 10 years later, I'm like, oh yeah, this is probably my dream job. Work at Apple, and I manage sports and entertainment clients. But like, that's because it's a journey. And with that, you have permission to reach out. I know a lot of people, when I first started on this, would hear about what I was doing and they go, oh God, that's a lot. That seems like too much for me. And people can think that, but you're just going to surpass them. And people love hustle. People love getting those types of emails. And, focusing on the rejection, it's like, everyone who doesn't want it, that's fine. Focus on the ones who do want to get on the call with you. And I love this because it's like you put on your cape and you can feel invincible and you really can just do anything. And here's my contact information. I know Bradley said that we're going to give some courses. So if someone doesn't get the course, feel free. You can use this code to get 50% off over the next few weeks. And you can see it from my website. You can get to the course page. I would say that when it comes to channels, you should follow us where you go places on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, I believe as well. It's probably a lot easier to get a response from me on Instagram if you just DM us, because we have a lot less coming in there than on LinkedIn. So just another way to know your channel. Okay. That concludes I'm not sharing my screen, am I?
Thank you, Melanie.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Cool. So now we can do a little Q&A.
So first of all, I didn't see anyone during that entire time. Like, was that helpful? Okay. I only saw myself on the screen. So that's the one downside of virtual presentations, because I'm like, oh, I'm presenting to myself here. So